With Pierre-Emile Højbjerg finally having secured his move to Marseille, the wheels on Tottenham's transfer window are starting to turn as we look to potentially bring in a £30 million fullback from Serie A and a free agent from Atletico Madrid. Meanwhile, Napoli want Dejan Kulusevski and Tottenham target Ederson may be heading to Old Trafford. All this and more on today's episode of Daily Premier League Transfer News with me, Barnaby Slater. Thank you guys once again for tuning in and listening wherever you are. Please do give the video a like, press subscribe. As ever, as I keep telling you, I'm trying to get close, or I'm getting closer to 10,000 subscribers. Please help me get there and spread the word about the channel where I'm bringing you daily Premier League transfer news every day this summer. Always, as ever, starting with my beloved Tottenham Hotspur. Also, you can become a member. All the details in the description box below. Just £1 a month really helps make this content for you. Easy for me to say. Let's get on with it with Spurs though. And rumours coming out yesterday that Tottenham have made an approach to sign Lecce's fullback Patrick Dorgu, and Lecce want €30 million for him. This isn't a new rumour. He's definitely on the list, and once again, another move that makes sense in terms of the recruitment team, in terms of what we're looking for, players who can cover numerous positions, and Dorgu definitely can do that. A lot of people have likened him to Destiny Udogie in his power and his pace on the ball, and clearly the attributes that Ange is looking for are there, and Johan Lang and the recruitment team are pushing to get this player or someone similar through the door. Meanwhile, as I mentioned at the top, Napoli under Antonio Conte now, the former Tottenham manager. Let's not forget how well Dejan Kulusevski did when he came in for Tottenham's Conte. He had a great start to his Tottenham career under Conte, and he wants him there at Napoli with him. Tottenham apparently have said, and this surprises me a little because after yesterday's video where I asked a lot of you, like, how much do you think it would take to get Dejan Kulusevski out of Spurs? A lot of you were saying in the comments, £50 million plus, especially if we were going to sell him to Aston Villa, who apparently had put in a little cheeky inquiry for him. Well, now, Napoli, according to Calcio Napoli 24, have been quoted €45 million. That's about, I think, 37 million pounds to get Kulusevski out of Tottenham. Would that be enough for you to get him out of Spurs to a foreign team? Let me know in the comments. Would €45 million be enough? Do you think Kulusevski has what it takes to stay at Spurs? A lot of kind of differing opinions in the comments yesterday. I was speaking to a number of you in the comments, and some of you were like, no, Kulusevski is underrated. He's only 23, 24 years old. He's got a lot of ceiling to reach still, whereas the other side of the fan base are very much like he hasn't got the pace for it. He's never going to really be a kind of 15-goal-a-season man at Tottenham. But can we really expect 15 goals a season from a wide forward? I don't know. I guess if you look at players like Mo Salah, maybe you should expect that. But Kulusevski is far more of a creator for me, and I still think there's a lot of possibility for him playing in the 10 or even the false 9 at Spurs. And in fact, in some of these friendly games, in the 2 friendly games we've seen so far this pre-season, he's kind of played on the right of the midfield 3 as well. So he's, I think personally, at the very least, an excellent squad player. As we build our first team up, as we build the potential and the attributes up to what Ange needs, I don't think we're going to do better than Kulusevski in terms of squad players to come in when players need to be rested, when players are suspended, and to challenge those first team players. That's my opinion, but let me know what you think in the comments. Is €45 million enough for Kulusevski? Meanwhile, apparently we are looking at Mario Hermoso, the defender from Atletico Madrid. He is a free agent after his contract ran out, and he wants to complete his next move quickly. He was destined to join Antonio Conte at Napoli, but that move has stalled, and Tottenham are potentially interested. As we know, Spurs looking for a fourth centre-half, ideally players who can play across the back line, and Hermoso may well fit the bill. Let's see what happens with this one. According to the Mirror, Eberechi Eze, who, as I've said all summer, top of Tottenham's transfer list, very much top of my transfer list. I really want us to get him in. He's such a wonderful player, glides across the grass, always so positive, always looking forward, can take on players each way, could play on the right or the left or in the number 8. He is my number 1 signing for Spurs that I want us to make this summer. He's the signing that I want us to make as this summer's James Maddison. Last summer, James Maddison was our marquee signing. I want Eze. Apparently, Man City, once again, now considering a move for him. But a lot of that may well be because of the rumours that Kevin De Bruyne has potentially agreed terms on a deal to Saudi Arabia. However, more about that later in the episode when I talk about more general Premier League transfers, because there's some toing and froing when it comes to that Kevin De Bruyne talk. And in fact, Pep Guardiola has given his thoughts on it. Meanwhile, Girona are apparently in talks for Bryan Gil. Bryan Gil and Sergio Reguilon have been left off the Asian tour. They will not be there. They are pursuing other potential transfers, and I think Girona is a good possible move for Bryan Gil. Girona got a lot of money in through the door this summer because they had a great season last year, and other clubs have picked off their best players, so they've got money to spend. Bryan Gil needs to go back to Spain. That's where he plays best. He's already been on loan there twice, back at Sevilla, and I think he is destined for a move back to Spain. I think we ended up spending like upwards of £20 million on him, plus Eric Lamela. We need to get back some of that. I think let's just try and take £10 million, something like that, £8 to £10 million, say to Bryan Gil, thank you, you're a talented player, but it's not going to happen in the Premier League, certainly not at this stage of your career. You haven't bulked up enough to take the kind of rough and tumble of the weekly games or the bi-weekly games, and we just have to wave him goodbye. It didn't work, and take some money and add it back to the budget. Meanwhile, another rumour that won't go away, Emerson Royal to AC Milan. AC Milan now set to restart those talks with Emerson Royal because they are walking away from a deal that they'd set up to get Aston Villa's Matty Cash, Aston Villa and Poland's Matty Cash instead. Another one, I've said it numerous times, I'll say it again. Take your £15 million for Emerson Royal. Whatever you can get back from, I think, the £22 million that we paid for him from Barcelona just doesn't have the attributes for Big Ange. Let him go. Wave him goodbye. Thank you so much. According to Paul O'Keefe, and we've talked about this a little bit before as well, but it's really understood, and this is really pushing on as talk in the press, because Alistair Gold has mentioned it as well. Jed Spence has super impressed the Spurs coaching staff this pre-season. His attitude has changed. He is on the tour to Asia, and he's going to get more chances. And it's exciting because he's played well in those first two pre-season games. I've asked you before, I'll ask you again. Do you think he'll still be here at the beginning of the season? I still have my doubts. I feel like he's realistically, he's on his last chance. And how easy is it to break that last chance? But I hope he proves us all wrong, because when he was at Nottingham Forest on loan, had his best season there when he helped get them promoted. Brennan Johnson was on the right side of the right wing, and he was at right back, and they've got a good understanding, so he could be a really good option, certainly at the very least as a backup to Pedro Porro. So let's see what happens. I mentioned that touring squad of Asia that has been released. They've flown to Tokyo now. They've landed. First game on Saturday afternoon. I will be doing a watch along for that game on We Are Tottenham TV. So go over and subscribe to We Are Tottenham TV, and you can watch me present the watch along for our first game in Asia on Saturday. But this is the touring team. George Abbott, Brandon Austin, Lucas Bergvall. That's good news because obviously he picked up a knock in the QPR game, but obviously looks like he's fit. Yves Bissouma, Ben Davis, Alfie Devine, Jamie Donnelly, Radu Dragusin, he will join for the Korea leg of the tour, which is second to the Japan leg. Archie Gray, Luca Gunter, Tyrese Hall, Brennan Johnson, Dejan Kulusevski, Will Lancashire, James Maddison, Mikey Moore. Very exciting to see Mikey Moore get more pre-season minutes over on that tour. What an unbelievable young talent he looks like. Ashley Phillips, Pedro Porro, Richarlison makes the tour, despite the fact that last week all the talk coming out of Tottenham was that maybe he wouldn't be fit enough for the tour. But Richarlison will be there, and of course, those rumours that he might well be going to Saudi Arabia just keep ramping up and up. Let me know in the comments, do you want Richarlison to stay as Tottenham's number 9 as a forward left option as well this season, or do you want to take the £60 million potentially on offer from Saudi Arabia and move him on and bring another 9 in? And if so, who would that 9 be? Emerson Royal is going on the tour despite the fact that he is in talks with AC Milan. Pat Matassar, Dane Scarlett, Oliver Skip, Mana Solomon, Heung-min Son, of course, Jed Spence, Destiny Udogie, Guillermo Vicario is back. And of course, Udogie, it's good that he's going on the tour because he's not featured in pre-season yet because of his injury he suffered at the back end of last season that kept him out of the Euros for Italy. Great to see Vicario back as our number 1 and getting some minutes. He obviously was at the Euros, had a little holiday since, but he didn't play any minutes at the Euros. So he's come back a bit sooner than maybe expected. Alejo Valise is on the tour, Timo Werner and Alfie Whiteman. In other news, Fraser Forster remains at Hotspur Way as he continues his rehabilitation from a fractured foot. And Rodrigo Bentancur, Giovanni Lo Celso, Christian Romero and Mickey van der Ven will rejoin the squad closer to the start of the season after representing their countries at the latter stages of the Euros and the Copa America. And as I mentioned, Bryan Gil and Sergio Reguilon left behind to explore prospective transfer opportunities. Are you surprised at all that Sergio Reguilon doesn't get another chance? It's clear to me that Big Ange just does not think he has the attributes to play that inverted fullback. Let's face it, it's a weird one, Reguilon. It's only probably, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years since we were all worried that he'd started so well at Spurs that Real Madrid may take up their buyback option on that deal. But his career has absolutely kind of flunked since then. And now, once again, for the second summer in a row, he is looking to get a move. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if that kind of lasted towards the end of the window and it ended up being another loan move for him to fill in for some team who have injuries, just like he did last year at Brentford and Manchester United. Meanwhile, some news coming out of Bayern Munich. Obviously, we have these two friendlies, one in Asia and one back at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium this summer. But Bayern Munich manager Vincent Kompany, previously Thomas Tuchel, but now Vincent Kompany, he says that Harry Kane will not be travelling to South Korea for that first friendly. He was clearly playing in the Euros with an injury. I think it was that back injury. I've said it before. I think he was having pain-killing injections. And I just think maybe there was a little bit of selfishness actually from Kane and from maybe even Southgate to play their talisman when he was not fit during that tournament. So he's clearly getting a rest, and that's why he's not going to Asia. Maybe that's not unexpected, but I do wonder, because that friendly against Bayern Munich at Spurs has been set up really, I think, as part of that Harry Kane transfer deal, almost as like a goodbye to Harry Kane for the fans, a proper goodbye, because his last game at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium that I was at was the friendly against Shakhtar Donetsk, just before, the week before his move to Bayern Munich last summer. And none of us knew for sure that he was leaving, so it wasn't a proper goodbye. And I do think that friendly has been set up. So if he's not fit to play in that one, that would be disappointing. But maybe he would still come along and kind of, I don't know, come and talk to the crowd at halftime or something like that. But he won't be in Asia for the Bayern Munich versus Spurs friendly there. Meanwhile, a few changes of squad numbers. Guillermo Vicario has taken the number 1 shirt now from Hugo Lloris. He will officially be the number 1, having worn number 13 last season. And Deki Udogie takes that number 13 shirt from Guillermo Vicario. That might surprise a few of you because 13 is usually the backup goalkeeper's number. But Deki Udogie did wear 13 when he was in Udinese. It's his favoured shirt, so he's taken it, and he has gone on social media and thanked Vicario for giving that up for him. Finally, in terms of Spurs news, 21-year-old Spurs midfielder Matthew Craig has agreed a loan move to Barnsley. The League One side fought off interest from both Sheffield Wednesday and Millwall for that move. So 21 years old, hasn't really had any chances in the senior squads. Let's see what Matthew Craig can do in the League One, which is a very, very difficult league. As I move on to kind of other Premier League transfer news and transfer news from further afield, please, once again, thank you so much for watching and listening. Really appreciate it. Please press the like button. Really helps it get up the algorithm, get more Spurs fans watching this, more football fans watching this. And if you haven't already, please press subscribe. As I said, I'm trying to get towards 10,000 subscribers and spread the word for other fans. If you want to say to them, this is a decent channel, come and watch it for some daily content. And once again, you can become a member, only £1 a month, all the details in the description box. But moving on to other Premier League transfer news, over to Old Trafford first. Youssouf Fofana from Monaco is another midfielder that Manchester United are looking at, as initial talks with Paris Saint-Germain has highlighted a gap in the money that Ineos and Manchester United want to pay for Manuel Ugarte and what Paris Saint-Germain want for him. That's according to Sky Sports. Meanwhile, United apparently preparing an offer of £17 million for Brazil and Palmeiras midfielder Richard Rios. They've already made a bid and have made contact with the player there. United's offer of £29 million for Matthias de Ligt from Bayern Munich has been rejected. Bayern are demanding, apparently, £42 million plus add-ons. Negotiations continue. I do think that's a deal that will be done. I think United are looking to completely upgrade their backline, and I'm surprised. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I'm surprised that Bayern Munich are willing to let de Ligt go, but they do need to make sales before they can make more purchases over at Bayern. United also considering Monaco's Vanderson. He is a player who's been on Tottenham's list. Looks like a very exciting fullback. They're considering him as a replacement for Aaron Wan-Bissaka. That's according to Sky Sports. Meanwhile, over to Liverpool, they're ready to pay Kubo's release clause. That's Real Sociedad's winger Kubo, very exciting player. Takefusa Kubo is his official full name. He has a release clause of €60 million. Liverpool are ready to pay it. Real Madrid, who he was formerly playing for, will receive €27 million if that deal goes through. Kubo was on Tottenham's list as well. He looks exciting, but Liverpool obviously have Champions League football. Over at Man City, Fabrizio Romano says that Al Ittihad will negotiate with City again for Ederson. this week. City's goalkeeper, they want 50 million euros for him, and he has already accepted the move. Apparently, Kevin De Bruyne are not part of those talks. There was a story saying that his personal terms had also been agreed with Saudi, but he is not part of those talks. I've said it, I'll say it again. I don't think City should be letting go of Ederson. I think he's one of the best 2 or 3 goalkeepers in the world. I think he's a huge part of what Man City do. His distribution is unbelievable. I think this is a big mistake if they let him go. But seemingly, Ederson is desperate to get over to Saudi Arabia and make his money. And as ever, with Pep Guardiola, he doesn't want players to stay who don't want to be there. And as I said, he has confirmed, Pep Guardiola, that De Bruyne will not sign for Saudi this summer. He said, and I quote, "No, Kevin is not leaving. It's fake news," according to Fabrizio Romano. Meanwhile, Borussia Dortmund have made contact with Man City to discuss Jan Couto conditions. Borussia Dortmund once again want to buy a young, talented player from England. They don't want to pay his €40 million release clause. They're negotiating on that price. Dortmund want to pay towards between 20 and 25 million euros. That's according to Sky Sports in Germany. Again, I can't stop talking about this, but Man City, having invested so much money in their academy, just make cash hand over fist from selling players who have barely ever played for their first team. Over to Aston Villa. Obviously, they sold Moussa Diaby to Saudi Arabia for £50 million, and they are looking potentially to reinvest that in Atletico Madrid's João Felix, who of course has been on loan at Chelsea. He's been at Barcelona. His career really hit the buffers since signing for Atletico Madrid for over 100, I think like £120 million a few years ago. That would be a big signing for Aston Villa. But does João Felix have the strength, really, and the commitment to make it in the Premier League? I do wonder. But if there's a manager who could get it out of him, it might be Unai Emery, who's done such a good job there. According to lots of reports up in Newcastle, Kieran Trippier is almost certain to leave the club this summer. That's a surprise to me. He didn't have the best season last year, but he did okay in the Euros in a difficult position for England. He's still an unbelievable crosser of the ball, but Trippier does seemingly like to make his moves, and it doesn't take a lot for him to fall out with a club or a chairman like he did with Daniel Levy, and maybe that is something that has happened at Newcastle. I wonder where he's going to end up. Potentially maybe Saudi Arabia as well. You could see them going big for Kieran Trippier. Watch this space. Meanwhile, Eddie Howe has given some quotes about Anthony Gordon, who is still interesting Liverpool. I've been very impressed with Anthony Gordon since he went to Newcastle. He was on Tottenham's transfer list before then. We were rumoured to be putting a bid in for him, but he went to Newcastle. But Eddie Howe said, "Anthony Gordon is a crucial player for us. We don't want to lose anybody. Why would we want to lose our best players? We fought really hard to make the right decisions. In those last few weeks, it was very, very difficult," by which he means the few weeks before June the 30th, when the profit and sustainability rules deadline was, and it looked like Gordon might leave then. He says, "In those last few weeks, it was very, very difficult, but it will be okay with Gordon." So it looks like maybe Gordon will stay despite that interest from Anfield. Over to West Ham, they have submitted an initial proposal to Leeds for Crescencio Somerville. Talks took place on the player side, but not agreed as yet, and apparently, according to West Ham, considered very expensive. AS Roma in Serie A have also included Somerville in their list, but only in case their deal for Soule does not happen. Over to South London and Arsenal. Olympique Marseille are closing on a deal for Eddie Nketiah, apparently. Personal terms have been agreed, but no deal agreed between the clubs. And maybe that is why Arsenal, apparently, according to the Metro in London, are prepared to offer Eddie Nketiah as part of a swap deal with Crystal Palace for Mark Guéhi. That would surprise me, because Arsenal very close now to getting Calafiori in from Bologna. They've got a lot of centre-back options. Obviously, Arsenal do boringly play 4 centre-backs across their back line, but you've got to say it does work. They don't concede a lot of goals. But if they were to get Guéhi and Calafiori, blimey. That is a lot of good centre-halves alongside Gabriel and William Saliba, who is another excellent centre-half. So let's see what happens there. A bit more general chat now. Erik ten Hag has had some quotes about what he feels is his success story at Manchester United since he's come in. This is a bit of a strange one to me. He said, "The club didn't win trophies before I came for 6 years. In 2 years, after Pep Guardiola, we have won the most trophies in English football. We're in a strong position. We can beat every opponent. More than once, in fact, against Manchester City and Liverpool." These were quotes from The Times in the UK. I can see what Ten Hag's doing. He's trying to boost up his record. He's trying to show that he's done a good job. He's trying to talk a good game when we all know that he was basically sacked before the FA Cup final, and then he won that FA Cup final, and Ineos had to kind of do an about turn because they didn't get a manager in who they really wanted. So Ten Hag's trying to be bullish, I guess. But for me, the issue with Ten Hag and Man United, and let me know if you agree or disagree in the comments, but they don't have a good style of play. So when they lose, it's ugly. It's like when Spurs had Conte or Mourinho. When they were winning, absolutely fine. But when they lose, it's so ugly that nobody wants to watch it, and it just does not last long. And considering how well Ten Hag did at Ajax in instilling a great style of progressive front foot, 1 and 2 touch football, very surprised that it hasn't been possible at Manchester United. And I just think Ten Hag's got such a prickly personality. There are enough examples of some of those Man United players who've just clearly not got on that well with him. Jadon Sancho, for one. And over at Paris Saint-Germain, they're finally looking at spending some of the money that they've got off their books because of Kylian Mbappe moving to Real Madrid. They are offering 80 million euros for Victor Osimhen from Napoli. Napoli want 110 million euros. So at this moment, apparently a deal is difficult. And they're also, Paris Saint-Germain, looking to gazump Barcelona to sign Nico Williams from Athletic Bilbao. They've made contact over a possible move. That is according to The Athletic. Very sad news for me because I wanted Nico Williams at Spurs. He was on our list for the last year or so, maybe 18 months. We probably needed to get him 18 months ago when he hadn't had such an incredible Euros and hadn't been so kind of up there with the most talented young players in the game. We needed to kind of strike while the iron was a bit colder, if anything. But Nico Williams will now get his big move to a club either like Barcelona or Paris Saint-Germain. Guys, thank you so much for watching and listening. I really appreciate it. Please do press that like button if you haven't already. Press subscribe. Help get me up to 10,000 followers and subscribers. And tell anyone who doesn't follow the channel to press subscribe here as well. And you can become a member, as I said, only £1 a month. All the details in the description box. Really helps me to make this content for you. Thanks again and have a great day. Goodbye.